So thank you guys for joining us tonight. We are really excited to have our new marketing specialist, Sierra Walter, leading a webinar for us. She is kind of our social media expert, so I know that tonight's going to be really valuable um, to kind of boost your social media game. So, Sierra, if you want to go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Here we go. So picking up from there, if you've joined us before, you've kind of heard our little spiel about Chop Local, but if you're not familiar with us, Chop Local is an online farmers market specifically for meat. And so we have farms and butcher shops across the country that sell their products online with Chop Local. And that ultimately helps us achieve our goal of helping farms and butcher shops increase their profits through direct to consumer meat sales. And so, in addition to the marketplace, we also offer a variety of services for farms and butcher shops. If you want to go to the next slide. So as I was saying, we also offer a variety of services for farms and butcher shops that are selling their meat direct to consumer. So we have some free and low cost courses and educational resources, including this webinar series. We talk a lot about email marketing, social media, like we're going to talk about tonight, and shipping is something that we share a lot about as well. And so if you're ever interested in those materials, you can visit choplocaluniversity.com and take a look around. So with that, I'm going to pass things over to Sierra. Like I mentioned, she is the marketing specialist for our Chop Local team. She joined us in January of this year and just has done an amazing job of kind of boosting our marketing presence through emails, blogs, social media. And so I know that everybody here tonight is going to learn a lot, and I'm excited for her to get started.
Thank you, Sydney. I'm so excited to be here tonight, and we have a great presentation planned. And my hope is that by the end of this webinar, you have some key takeaways that you can take away from tonight, from tangible skills to social media ideas. And more than anything, just feel inspired to harness your social media presence and leverage it as the strong marketing tool that it is. And so tonight we're going to cover a few different things. The first thing is we're going to talk about strategy and just overarching philosophy when it comes to social media. We're going to talk about content creation, which is my favorite part of social media. And throughout tonight, we're also going to be giving you different tips for success. And so I thought it would be fun if we started off the webinar with a little game, and that is two truths and a lie. And so I have three statements here about social media. And so I want you to read over these and take a second and decide which one you think is the least true. And so Sydney just pulled up a poll, and so you can actually vote on the one that you think is the lie. Um, and so the first one is higher engagement equals more sales. The second one is focus on the platforms where your audience is most active. And the third one is engaging with your followers is just as important as posting. Okay, we'll give everyone a few seconds here. The votes are coming in. Okay, and you want to pick the one that you think is the least true.
I
Okay,
just want to chime in and say that I think that this is really hard because I previewed your slides and I don't know what the right answer. I mean, I do because then I clicked to the next slide, but I wasn't sure what the right answer was. So I'm glad that you're doing this, Sierra.
it may be a little tricky, but I promise I have an idea behind it. Okay, so it looks like everyone's leaning towards the first option. So Sydney, I think we can go ahead and go to the next slide here. So if you pick the first option, you are right. Higher engagement equals more sales. And I think to some of you, that may be a little bit surprising. However, it looks like most of you hit it right on target and knew where I was going with this. And so I thought that it would be good to start with this idea when we think about social media, because there are one of two things that I see a lot of smaller brands do with social media. The first one is sometimes I see smaller brands that are truly just chasing trends, and their only metrics for success on social media is the number of likes and the number of followers. And oftentimes that leads to their whole social strategy. All of their content is really just these entertaining, maybe even silly, trendy reels, and a lot of times by just posting purely trendy stuff, they aren't really pushing their true marketing message to their audience. They're not telling their audience who they are, what products and services they're offering, and more importantly, why you should be buying from them. They just kind of have their blindfolders on and they're just chasing those trends, just chasing those numbers. And I do want to say that I think it's important to incorporate, trends into your social strategy, but I don't think you're going to be very successful if that is all you do. The second thing that I see a lot of smaller brands do is the polar opposite, where they treat social media like a bulletin board. So what do I mean by a bulletin board? So either like imagine an event center or some type of shared space where there's a bulletin board and lots of people post flyers about upcoming events or clubs and organizations you should join or anything happening in the community that they want to share information about. So sometimes I see that some brands, this is all they do, right? So they're posting about, for example, an upcoming farmers market they're going to attend, or an upcoming sale and promotion, or they're posting about a certain cut of meat that just got back into stock. And again, while I think that that is important to incorporate in your strategy, it's not going to be very effective if that's all you're doing, which I think is kind of brings us to this bigger idea of what a social strategy is, because it's a combination of a few different things. And you can go on to the next slide here. And so I think what's better to focus on than just trends and numbers is focusing on providing your audience with valuable content. Now, what do I mean by valuable content? I mean content that your customers and your audience will find intriguing and both informative and entertaining. If you present it in an entertaining way, that's a bonus. And so an example for that would be in this first box. Say you're going to post about, say you got ribeyes that are back in stock and you want to post about that and inform your customers they're back in stock. You want to make sure you buy them before we run out again. So instead of doing that, you can take a slightly different angle to post about that same thing, but provide more value to your audience. So instead, you can say, here are 5 steps to making a flavorful, juicy, and tender steak that's going to beat restaurant steak every single time. And the first step is obviously to buy that steak from us, from you guys, because a flavorful steak starts with good marbling. And so you'll want to buy that meat from us. And then the second step could be add the seasoning or cook it to a certain temperature or whatever else you want to plug in. But by kind of thinking about what problems do our customers have that I can provide solutions for, and letting that guide you along the way of creating content, because that's going to be more valuable to your customers. Another pillar of this idea of focusing on more valuable content is posting content that's going to build trust and rapport with your audience. I see a lot of brands forget that they need to post about themselves. They need to post their face, because at the end of the day, people connect with people. People don't connect with brands. People don't connect with a company. People don't connect with a logo. People connect with the people that make up that company. And so it's important to lace in information about you, who you are, and that will allow your audience to learn more about you and feel more confident being a customer. And at the end of the day, when we're focusing more on providing value to our customers through our social strategy, we're going to be more consistent and we're going to feel less defeated, which will allow us to be more consistent on social media. So if you're still not convinced why social media is a strong marketing tool, here are a few other ways, a few other reasons. One, it's a great way to build brand awareness, to connect with your customers and potential customers. Specifically, in seasons where you may not be seeing your customers at the farmer's market or for whatever reason, it allows you to maintain that connection. The third one is to build a community, to promote sales, specials, and other news, which we briefly talked about. And lastly, it gives you a platform to sell your sales pitch to customers. It gives you an opportunity to persuade people to buy from you. So if you've attended any of our previous webinars or courses, this marketing funnel probably looks familiar to you, but if it doesn't, that's okay. So this marketing funnel essentially depicts your customer's journey from the beginning to where they first heard about you to the end when they become a buyer. So the first stage of this funnel is the awareness stage, where they found out about you, whether it was through an online ad or word of mouth or whatever it is. Okay. And as you can see, this is a larger funnel and they just keep getting smaller, right? And so the second phase is considering. The second phase of the customer journey is considering. And I have this stage of the marketing funnel circled because I think that your social media plays a huge part when your customers are at this stage and is a huge deciding factor on whether they do become a buyer or they don't. And certainly can, at least. And so for just a second, I want you to think less about being a business owner and a social media manager, and I want you to think about being a consumer, whether that's a consumer of a food product, of a beauty product, of a cooking product, whatever that is. And I want you to imagine a time where you first learned about a brand. I know personally, when I am at this considering stage myself as a customer, and I'm not sure, I just learned about a brand, not sure if I'm going to buy from them yet. One of the first things I do is I look them up on social media. And if I look up a brand on social media and I see that they haven't been posting very much, whether that be they haven't posted much in the last few months or the last few years, that creates some questions in my head as a customer. It makes me wonder, why are they not posting? Are they not in business anymore? Do they not have a lot of inventory? And as you can see, instead of feeling more confident about my decision to purchase from that brand, instead I'm starting to come up with some questions. So this is why I think it is really important to have that online presence on social media so you can nurture your customers when they are in this stage of the marketing funnel and make them feel confident about going to your website and buying from you. Okay, so quickly we're going to go over some common frustrations with social media that we're going to cover tonight. The first one is low engagement. The second one is content is not getting pushed to the right audience. The third one is content creation is hard. The fourth one is I don't know what to caption my posts. And lastly, I don't have time. And like I said, we're going to cover all of these frustrations and provide tips and solutions for them. Okay, so at the end of the day, there is one of three ways to manage your social media account. The first one is by hiring a social media agency to run your account. Now, the pros and upsides to this is it doesn't eat up much of your time at all because you hired a social media agency that are experts in this field and they are running it for you. The downsides are that it can be really expensive, and by having an agency or a third party doing most of your work, sometimes I think you lose a little bit of connection with your audience. The second one is you hire an employee to manage your social media account, or you designate a current employee to manage that account. And thirdly, you do it yourself. And tonight, I'm here to tell you that you can do it yourself. If it's not in your marketing budget to take the the first two routes, it is absolutely possible for you to manage and run your social media account in a way that is effective, that it's going to actually work in terms of your marketing plan, and it's not going to feel overwhelming. And so, in order to do that, we're going to follow a process that is simplified into 4 steps. First one is we're going to plan ahead and create a content calendar. The second step is we're going to create the content, we're going to schedule the post, and then the final step is engaging. So before we dive in, there's one last thing I want to preface, and that is something that I learned from one of my mentors back in college, and it's simply that every single post that you have ever posted has a purpose, and it's that purpose is one of these three or a combination of these three. It's either to entertain, to persuade, or to inform. And I think the best posts are ones that do a combination of these. However, it's not every post is going to do all three. And so as we create our content calendar, we are gonna want to look for and ensure that we have a spread of this type of purpose throughout our monthly calendar. Okay, so at this stage, essentially what we're going to do is we are going to plan the month of April 2025 social media, what we want to post, when we're going to post it, what time we're going to post it. We're just going to plan it out, and we're also going to generate ideas. And so if you are a paper and pencil type of person, you can pull out a printout of a calendar, or you can do it like me, and I just use a calendar on my computer. Now, typically, I try to sit down around the 15th of the prior month, and plan out my social media calendar. Now, it is March 26th, so we're a little behind the 8 ball, but that is okay. But tonight, right here, we're going to plan next month's social media calendar. So I always start with thinking of what is some low-hanging fruit that I know is going to be easy posts that I can just slap on my calendar. And the first thing that comes to mind typically is national holidays. Now, I always think it's a good idea to talk about national holidays because typically they involve food. And so it makes a pretty easy way to connect it to your meat business and selling meat. So these are the holidays for April. As you can see, April 1st is April Fool's Day, and you can just have fun with creating that post. Obviously, we have Easter, and so we're certainly going to want to post about that, maybe even multiple times throughout the month. And then you will find in each month there are these random national day ofs that are sometimes fun to post about and kind of gives you an opportunity to take a creative angle at it. So on April 24th, it is National Bring Your Kids to Work Day. So you may ask, why is that relevant to me? Why would I post about that? Well, again, I think sometimes it's important to take a creative angle and approach at something that's timely and relevant and find a way to connect it to your meat business and push your marketing message. So my idea with this post is if you have a family, post a picture of your kids helping you out on the farm or the ranch or your butcher shop. Maybe that's packing orders, maybe that's feeding livestock, and simply caption it something to the effect of, it's National Bring Your Kids to Work Day, but our kids help us with our meat business every single day. So something fun like that. And I also think there's an extra layer that we talked about earlier, of showing more about who you are, and who your brand is that will build trust and rapport with your audience. Okay, so now what I want you to do is create 2 columns on a piece of paper. And this is where we're going to generate our ideas. So in the first column, I want you to write down, and by the way, we're going to be going back to that content calendar. We're not done with it yet. But here, I want you to write down in the first column all of the things that are going on in your business in the next month that you know you're going to want to post about. Okay. whether that's an upcoming farmer's market you're going to, whether that's a product that or cut of meat that you really want to push in your marketing efforts. Just write down all of the things you know you want to post about. And then I want you to think about our discussion earlier about valuable content and think about what is some valuable information or content that I can share with my audience that will solve a problem that they have. If your client base is parents that have kids, maybe that's sharing easy weeknight recipes using your meat. Maybe that it could be a variety of things, right? So you can go ahead and go on to the next slide, Sydney. Okay, so we have the first column filled out. Now the second column, I want you to write down all of the trends you have been seeing on social media the last few weeks and months. Now that kind of leads to the question, how do I find trends? Unfortunately, there's no simple easy place to go find a comprehensive list of what's been trending in the last few weeks or months. At least I haven't found that yet. The only way to identify trends is by consuming social media, getting on the app, and scrolling. However, I do think a lot of us spend a fair amount of time on social media anyways. And so when I'm on social media, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, what trends am I seeing a lot of people do? What things do I see that is doing well on social media that I think I can implement with my brand? And when I see any trends, I oftentimes save those posts or take a screenshot of it. So whenever I'm planning my post for the month, I can go reference that. And one last tip I will give you about trends is I usually find the most trends by scrolling on Instagram Reels specifically. I typically find the most trends when I'm doing that in the quickest time manner. Okay, so now that we have both columns filled out, what we're going to do is we're going to connect the idea of a post with a trendy idea and decide how we're going to essentially create the post. So as you can see, I literally just drew a line from the idea of the post to the trend that I want to connect it with. Okay, so if this is a little confusing to you, we're just going to talk through it together here. So my first idea for a post is there's a farmer's market I'm going to next month that I need to tell my audience about. Now, it's a little early for farmers markets, but that's okay. There's one going on in the spring and we're going to go to it and we need to post about it. So I am connecting that with the trend, the trending audio that I wrote down, me more cowboy than you. If you haven't seen or heard that trending audio, you'll just have to go look it up. So how we're going to connect these two and implement this post is, say we're going to get some behind the scenes footage of our farm and ranch, making sure that we're showing pictures of our face, maybe we're feeding livestock, just chores around the farm. We're going to use this trending audio and we're going to caption it something to the effect of, hey, we'd love to meet you and see you in person. Come visit us at the farmer's market on X day at X time. Okay. So the second thing we have on this list is, say there's a ground beef special we're running next month. So I didn't connect this to any of the trends because I didn't really think that there was a strong way that I could implement a trend to this specific idea. So we're just going to make a note that we're going to design a social graphic and post it that way, which is okay. Like I said, not everything has to be trendy. The next one is we're going to launch an Easter campaign next month where we're going to send out multiple marketing emails informing and reminding our customers to put in their meat orders so they have it for Easter dinner. Now, we're going to also complement with a few different posts, and we decided that we want to do one trendy reel, and we're going to connect that with the trend that I've been seeing on Instagram lately, which is just posting very much aesthetic, simple, memorable reels. So what we're going to do is we're going to also get some footage of behind the scenes content of our farm and ranch. And we're gonna make sure we get very aesthetic shots. Maybe that's livestock grazing on green pastures. Maybe that's a sunset or a sunrise. And we're going to connect it by using the caption, um, we love and it is our passion to produce high quality meat for our local community. Make sure that you get in your meat orders so you have meat for Easter dinner. Something to that effect, okay? The next one is we want to post about one of our best sellers, which is, let's say that's tri-tip. So we're going to connect it to the trend where I've been seeing a lot of people use this phrase either on text in their reels or in their captions, and it's the perfect blank doesn't exist, and exist isn't completely finished. And so we're going to replace the blank with the perfect piece of meat doesn't exist, and we're going to post a picture or a video of our tri-tip and promote it that way in a more intriguing, trendy way. The last, second to the last one is pork bundle. So say you have a meat bundle, really any piece of meat that, or any product that you're really wanting to push next month and get customers to buy more of. So we're going to connect that with this trend, essentially strategy where you use a hook in your reel. What do I mean by that? What I've been seeing a lot of people do to try to grab people's attention is they will use on-screen text in their video that in the first 1 to 3 seconds appears, and it's essentially saying something that's trying to get you intrigued and want to read and consume more of that content. So this is an example of a hook that is, did you know blank? Read the caption for more information. So maybe we replace that with, did you know that you can buy X amount of pounds of pork for X amount of dollars right now? Read the caption for more information. Something like that. Okay, so I think by kind of talking through that, you kind of get the gist of what I'm getting at here. And just like that, as you can see, we about have our content calendar filled out. So essentially, we took all of those ideas that we created and notes of how we're going to create that content and just fill that out in the calendar. And so right here, we have about 2 to 3 posts planned for each week. And I think that is a fantastic start. In fact, that might be a very ideal, realistic pace to be able to set yourself at. And if you want to challenge yourself to post more, say 4 to 5 times a week, that's fine too. But I always prefer quality over quantity. And if this is the pace you can maintain, like I said, I think it's a fantastic start. Okay, so a pro tip, post in local Facebook groups for more targeted posting. I think this is a really good idea to spend some time researching some relevant Facebook groups. And whenever you publish your post, simply just share it to that Facebook group. So what do I mean by that? In my area, I'm a member of a Facebook group that's called Payne County Small Businesses, where small businesses in my area post and advertise in that Facebook group. And they're specifically members of that Facebook group are people in our local area. And so by posting to that Facebook group, you're not only going to be posting to people that you don't follow and don't follow you, but you're specifically going to be posting to a group of people of a certain demographic. And so in this case, it would be people in your county, which typically that is a more ideal customer anyways. And so that makes for a more targeted marketing strategy. So definitely something to look into. Okay, so now that we have our plan for the month, we're going to move to the phase of content creation. So I think this stage sometimes trips people up and makes them feel overwhelmed because they don't know where to start. But because we already created our content calendar, that's going to just guide us through this process. With that being said, I did want to note that it's okay to switch things up as you go. I think a key part of social media is being in tune in terms of what is relevant and timely on that given day or that given week. And so it's certainly okay to make adjustments as you go. One of the tips that I'll give you is to, on your computer, create a folder where you store all of the content that you have, whether that's photos or video clips. That way, when you go to create content, you can reference that folder. And if you have anything in there that you can reuse for a reel or a post that you're going to create, that's going to save you time. Now, it's important to include fresh content as well, but I don't think every time you create a post, you have to be getting fresh photos and fresh video. You certainly can reuse content. In fact, I think that's smart and that'll save you time. A lot of brands will hire a photographer to come out maybe once a year to do branding photos. And if that's within your marketing budget, I think that's a great idea because it will quickly populate that folder of content that I was just talking about with really high quality visuals that Facebook and Instagram love. However, if it's not in your marketing budget to hire a photographer, absolutely don't sweat it. You can definitely get the content you need just through smartphone photos and videos. Okay, I feel like a broken record for saying this, but pro tip, show your face. Remember, people connect with people, so don't forget that part when you get to the stage of creating content. You want to show who you are, share about why you started your meat business to help build trust and rapport, and just allow your audience to get to know you. Okay, so a few tools I use when I'm creating content. The first one is Canva. I mostly use Canva when I create social graphics. If you don't know what I mean by social graphics, it's essentially whenever I'm wanting to put text or my logo on a photo. So it's super easy to design that in Canva. Another thing that you can find in Canva is stock photos. And so I think that there are times where it may be useful to use stock photos. An example of that is, say you're wanting to post a photo of a roast or a meal or a recipe idea. And I'm saying this as a photographer, sometimes it's hard to get good photos of food and make it look good. And so in that case, I think sometimes it's appropriate to use a stock photo. With that being said, you certainly don't want that to be your full social strategy and make up all of the posts in your feed. You want to make sure that you are using photos and videos that aren't stock images to maintain that authentic feel. I also use this app on my phone called InShot to edit all of my reels. Now, 99% of the time when I'm creating a reel, I am getting that footage by videoing it from my iPhone or smartphone. And so, because my footage is already on my phone, it's super easy to use this app to edit it. And personally, I prefer this editing app over the editing features that are in Facebook and Instagram. And so I edit my reels in InShot. I upload it to Facebook and Instagram. Usually that's where I add my audio and I post from there. And lastly, we'll talk about this a little later, but I use Facebook Meta Business to schedule posts. Okay, my favorite part, Reels. So if you aren't familiar with Reels or you don't post a lot of Reels, we should probably start with why even bother with creating Reels for your meat business. The main answer is, to be honest, the algorithm, specifically on Instagram, really pushes Reels more than static posts. Don't ask me why, but when Reels were released 5-ish years ago, Instagram algorithm was really pushing this form of content. And a lot of times what you'll find is your Reels will be pushed to more non-followers thin followers versus the amount of reach you get with static posts. And so for that reason alone, I think it's a good idea to try to post a few reels a month on Instagram just because of that extra reach you're going to be getting. I do think also as social media consumers, we are listening or we're consuming more video than we are consuming static posts. I'm not saying that's always true, but I think that's the trend is people are enjoying more video content. And so that's another reason why to create reels. And lastly, you don't need fancy equipment. In fact, I think highly produced, high quality, overly produced videos actually don't do well on social media. More of the low key, low produced, vertical smartphone videos are what's doing better on social media. And so don't let equipment make you feel defeated by any means. Okay, so here are a few examples. I don't know if you can hear the audio. Um, you just want to go ahead and try that again, Sydney. Um, so essentially, this is an example of using on-screen text, and you may not be able to see there, but this video is about the Super Bowl. And so it is so this is a kind of an example of taking something that's timely and relevant and making it a connection to your meat business and being able to push a marketing message through that. And so the next video is another example. So that is an example of a hook that we talked about earlier. And as you can see, that video was like 10 seconds long. So again, you just have to focus on trying to get your audience's attention within that first few seconds. And again, that was an example of using on-screen text to grab your attention, your audience's attention. Pro tip. With all of that being said, I think the content that your audience enjoys consuming is most of the time going to be the content that you enjoyed making. And so don't let content creation overwhelm you. I think it's great to start where you're at and just try to build from there. Okay, so now that we've planned our calendar, created the content, now we're going to start writing our captions. I think sometimes this also trips people up because, again, you went through all of the work of coming up with an idea, creating the post, editing the photo or video, and you're ready to post, and then it's like, oh, I still have to create a caption. So a few tips that I would share with you guys is to remember that you're writing to your customers. And I think a lot of meat businesses that we work with are very in tune and connected with their local clientele. And so just imagine if you're struggling with coming up with a caption, imagine what you would say if you were talking to one of your customers regarding the topic that your post is. That sometimes will help you give an idea. And on that same note, it's important that the captions are professional, but they also need to be conversational. And so that's something to keep in mind too. Don't think it has to be really formal. In fact, it's better if it's not. Also, in your captions, you want to include a call to action. And so what is a call to action? Call to action is prompting your customer or your audience to do something, whether that's order from our online store or to give us a follow, okay? And so oftentimes I'll use the call to action, order now, and then I'll include a link to our online store. But you can get more creative with it, and you can say, treat yourself to a steak now, and then link your online store, or however you want to word that call to action. And finally, ChatGPT can help. whether that's with coming up with ideas or refining your caption. I think ChatGPT can provide you with a lot of copywriting assistance. With that being said, I don't think it's ever a good idea to copy what ChatGPT gave you and post that without editing it. I do think ChatGPT uses a lot of emojis when you prompt it to create a social media caption. So I would usually take a few of those emojis out. And I also think sometimes ChatGPT can be a little cheesy, so it's important to go in and refine it and customize it and make sure that it sounds like it's coming from you. Scheduling. So I think this is also really important. So basically, if you don't know what I mean by scheduling posts, there are one or two ways to publish a post. One is doing it manually, where you pull up the Facebook and Instagram app, you click create post, you add your photo and video, you add your caption, and you post it. Or you can schedule your post out. And I think makes it way more time efficient because say you're going to post 3 times one week, and you're probably going to have to sit down for 15 to 20 minutes each day you post to make that post. Or if you schedule your content out, you can just do it all in one sitting for that week or maybe even 2 weeks. And also you can ensure that you're going to have posts go out that week because sometimes we get busy and we forget. So again, just doing it in one sitting ensures that your posts are going to go out the door. And again, I use Meta Business Suite just because it's free to you if you have a Facebook business account, and it's pretty user-friendly. All you have to do is navigate to the Meta Business Suite, click Planner on the left-hand corner, and it will populate a calendar that you can create posts from. Other tools I have listed here, but those are going to cost you a little bit of money. So again, I recommend using Meta Business Suite. Pro tip. So whenever you are scheduling posts and you're adding the media or photos or videos and you're adding the caption, there's also a feature where you can add location. Now, I don't think that you need to add your specific home address by any means, but I think it's helpful if you include either the state you're in or a major town you live by, because that information will sometimes prompt the algorithm to push your post to users in that area. So I think it's worth doing. Second, as I've mentioned, you absolutely need to link your online store and give your social media audience an easy avenue to get to your website and buy from you. Another thing we haven't spent a lot of time on is I think it's really important to link or include a URL to your online store in your Instagram bio as well, and have a call to action in your Instagram bio and then the link to your online store. Lastly, I think it's a good idea to tag relevant accounts when appropriate, because by tagging an account that's relevant, sometimes that'll lead to a like or comment or share, which is even better. And so definitely do that if it makes sense with your post. And finally, I think this is also really important. After you post, go ahead and reshare to your stories. So the reason why I say that is sometimes the algorithm is tricky and it's not going to push your post to all of your followers. So by resharing it to your stories, you're just giving yourself an extra layer of insurance that your content is going to be pushed to your followers. There's also some data out there that shows that social media users scroll through stories more than they do their feed. And so again, it just doesn't take you much time and it's worth sharing it to your story. Okay, so we've made it to the last phase of our process, which is engagement. What do I mean by that? So we've posted our content, we created it, we have our plan, and it's scheduled and posted. So there's one last step that I think is important, and that is going on social media, on your business account, and scrolling through your feed and engaging with your followers. So the reason why I say this is your followers are most likely either your customers or your potential customers. And at the end of the day, we all want more likes, we want more comments, we want more follows. And so whenever you like or comment on your followers or customers' post, they're going to see that notification and they're going to appreciate that you took the time to like their post or comment. And they're also going to see your notification of your meat business, that your meat business liked their post. And that's going to remind them that, hey, maybe I need to put in a meat order. It's just going to put your brand in front of their face and one more time in another form that is going to build trust and rapport, but also may lead to them checking out your social media feed and going to your website and buying from you. So definitely not a step to overlook. Okay, so that is all I have for you tonight. But before we get into questions, I have a few resources I want to leave you with to help step you up for success. The first one is by being an attendee of the webinar tonight and spending the last hour with me, I am going to send you a guide to 5 real ideas that include the trending audio, the trend, and how to implement it to your meat business. And so this will give you a quick and easy guide to start posting trendy reels and make it connect to your meat business and push your marketing message. And so in the next 24 hours, you're going to be getting an email with us with a link to this recording. And we're also going to include this guide to 5 free real ideas that we're just going to give you guys for attending this webinar. Secondly, this is something that I'm really excited to talk about. ChopLocal University is launching a social media template shop where we are selling 25 pre-designed social media posts specifically for meat businesses to boost your online presence and to boost sales. And so if you are kind of sitting in the boat where you're new to content creation, you don't have a lot of time to invest in it, or you just need a place to start to get you going, this can be a great resource for you. These are only $29.99 for 25 posts. And we not only designed optimized posts for you, we also included professionally written captions to go with every single post. And so if you also kind of struggle with captions and just need some guidance in that area, again, I think this template shop could be a great resource for you. And you can find it by going to choplocaluniversity.com. And speaking of ChopLocal University, if you enjoyed this webinar tonight and you're interested in more resources when it comes to marketing your meat business, you'll definitely want to give us a follow on Facebook and Instagram and check us out on choplocaluniversity.com. And lastly, upcoming webinars. So this tonight was our 3rd installment of our spring webinar series, and we have one final webinar this series that you definitely don't want to miss. It is titled Turn Farmers Market Customers into Year-Round Customers. And so I think that's perfect timing. We're about to hit farmers market season. And so definitely want to tune in to learn how you can retain those customers. And you can register for that webinar by visiting choplocaluniversity.com, and that will guide you to find the registration link. Okay, well, I think we have a few more minutes here, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about social media.
Yeah, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A portion, and we will have Sierra get those answered. Otherwise, once again, we do want to mention this will be sent out via email tomorrow, and you can also find the recording on our YouTube channel. Wait for a few questions to come in. Okay, so Nicole asked how many posts per day is best? Just one post?
This is a great question, and I would agree with what you followed that up with. I think one post is probably enough for a single day. I think if you post more than once, the algorithm is just going to put half of its energy to posting or to pushing one of your posts and not the same amount to pushing your others. It can just get a little bit more complicated, and you may not be able to reach as many people. So I think just stick to one post is generally a good idea. With that being said, again, I think it's great to share that post to your story. And when you share that post to your story on Instagram, you can add a link, you can add a poll, you can add a sticker. There's other features that you can do in that Instagram story to kind of like make that form of content its own. And so if you're wanting to post, maybe be a little bit more active on a single day, I would recommend doing that.
Yeah, so another question that came in, and this is a really good question. I feel like we often get this is, do you find that customers shy away from wanting to see the livestock or images from the locker, so like the finishing portion of cutting the cuts, as they may not want to really connect the animal to the meat?
I agree. This is a fantastic question that we didn't really touch on in our webinar. But I think, first of all, it's important that any image that we share, specifically of our farm, we are thinking about what are we conveying to the customer. And so again, if you're going to share photos or videos of your farm or ranch, I think it's important that the livestock is maybe on green grass. I know a lot of times this time of year, there's a lot of mud, and there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but that's something to think about. You may not want to share that on social media. Just kind of want to paint a pretty picture of farm life if you're going to show pictures and foot content of your farm and ranch. Um, we do have a few customers that we worked with that live in certain regions where they feel like their customer base doesn't want to see any content of their farm or their livestock. And so I think that's just a matter of being in touch with your customers. And so if that's the case, then you just need to focus more on the meat and food content.
Okay, another question that came in is Facebook flagging posts that are selling meat products. Should I be mindful of content messaging or images used so my account isn't flagged?
This is another good question. We haven't found that any content we share that Facebook is flagging. However, I will note that on Facebook, you can use Marketplace to sell items. And so you absolutely cannot use that feature when you're selling meat. The best way to do it is just to include a link to your online store when you're selling meat or advertising meat online. I don't know if Katie has anything else to add to that.
No, you were spot on. I was getting ready to chime in case, because we joke that Sierra's more the Instagram user and I'm more the Facebook generation, right? But you're exactly right. There are some Facebook groups that they have their own group rules and they will say that it's because of Facebook. But some Facebook groups are really particular about it, especially the live animals, if you're selling live animals. But we've never had a problem with having a business page that is but I'll point out that that is different from using your personal profile as well. If you're using your personal profile versus your business page, the business page is usually a better option.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
Okay, another question. Um, Under the topic of adding location, what does tagging relevant accounts mean?
Sure, I'm glad you asked that because I kind of sped over that uh, pro tip in terms of time. So there's a few different ways you could think about that. So one, if you are sharing a picture or a video of you packing orders, maybe for a customer that you know well, sometimes if you feel like it's appropriate, you can tag that customer and say, oh, we're sending orders out. If you know that customer really well, I would preface with that. The other idea that I had is if you tag any relevant associations or organizations that are relevant to that post. So what do I mean by that? So say that you are a beef producer in Oklahoma and you're sharing content of your cattle grazing on green grass, one of the behind the scenes posts. I don't think it hurts to maybe tag the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Association if you are a member of that, or if you're running Angus cattle to tag the Angus Association. I don't think it'll hurt anything to tag those larger associations or organizations because they may see that that you tagged them and not do anything with that, or they may see that you tagged them and they'll like your post, and even better, they may share it, which will put your post in front of a larger audience. And so, just thinking kind of strategically there, what accounts can I tag? Or if you're going to a farmer's market and you can tag, if the farmer's market has an account, maybe tag the farmer's market and you can get a share that way.
Yeah, those are all really good examples. Okay, well, it's 7 o'clock now. So if you guys have any other questions, certainly feel free to reach out to Sierra or our team, and we'll be happy to get back to you. But thanks for spending an hour with us tonight. We always enjoy getting to interact with our audience. And so we appreciate you coming to our webinar and let us know if you have any questions.